cover this important, very unusual kind of day for us, but we're very honored to be hosting a delegation of some Americans, some Israelis who are here to talk about what's happening, and family members who are still being held hostage. Some, of course, there's been also those who have been killed because of this senseless violence by Hamas against Israel. This today, as though, is not about geopolitics or anything like that. This is about really getting the word out about these families and about these hostages who need to be released. We were reached out to by the delegation who's here with us today, and there's an organization that they have called Bring Them Home Now. It's an NGO that is working to secure the release of the hostages who are here, and so the folks that you will hear from in just a few moments actually have family members who either have been or are hostages in Israel. We all, of course, here in the U.S. saw with horror what was happening in October with the senseless violence and invasion that happened to sovereign nation of Israel, where innocent civilians were simply taken hostage, folks who were going about their normal lives in their homes with their families, and were murdered, were attacked, were taken hostage. And we've seen that, and even today, I guess roughly 100 days after that almost, we still have hostages who are there. And when we were reached out to, the word today, there's not a whole lot that a state legislature can do, obviously, but other than try to express the support for these families, for these folks, and stand in solidarity asking that these individuals be released. Two of my colleagues, before I turn it over to our guest to speak, two of my colleagues who are here who have been very instrumental in legislation that we have drafted, both to ensure that the anti-BDS legislation to support Israeli investment. Representative Steve Ross was a key part of that, and then Representative Aaron Perret has been involved in legislation. Particularly, she worked on the statement of support that we did in the resolution last year as a statement of support with Israel. So I do want to recognize them to say a couple words briefly before we go to our honored guests who are here. So I'd say, Aaron, if you want to go first, ma'am.
Well, good afternoon. The words that I'll say, I'll keep it brief, and this is what we were talking about in our small group meeting just now. I think it's important that we recognize that everybody here in the United States, in Israel, and everywhere, we are all mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters. We have family members that we care so deeply about, just like all of the people that are affected by this horrific tragedy. And it's so important for us to be here and to use our voices to get out these stories to everyday Americans so they can keep it top of mind how important it is to advocate on behalf of these families and use our voices and our positions to be able to advocate as strongly as possible for the return of these hostages and a positive outcome. So I appreciate everyone being here, and I appreciate the role that you are taking in helping get these stories out to the public and make sure that we are praying for these families, these hostages, and that we are doing everything that we can to make sure that we effectuate a positive outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Perret. I think Representative Steve Ross.
Thank you for being here this afternoon. First, I just want to say that our hearts, our prayers, our support go out to these families. I think sometimes we need to stop and step back and think about when you say the word family, that's inclusive of a lot of people of all ages. I think sometimes when we look at conflicts around the world, we think of just military, soldiers, that kind of thing. What we're talking about are families that are mothers, fathers, grandfathers, grandmothers, and children of all ages that get caught up in these conflicts. And that's what we have here. And I think that's why it's extremely important that we give all the support that we can to the families, our brothers and sisters in Israel. Because it is families, it is children, it's fathers, mothers, grandfathers, grandmothers. And so our hearts and prayers go out, and it's our hope that with enough support from around the globe, we can get get a speedy resolution to have these families reunited. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Ross. We had a meeting before this press conference, and I think what you will hear in a few moments will be some of the North Carolina connection that with North Carolinians who are involved in this, and that really brings this even closer to home when you look at that. And I hope that after today's press conference that those of you here and that the viewing public understand how important this is and how important it is that we as a nation continue to press for the return of these families and continue to press for the protection of Israel. We're also honored today to have with us today the Consul General from Israel, Anat Sultan Dedan, who is here with us and will be making some remarks as well. And then after she speaks, I'll let her turn it over with our visitors. So, Consul General, thank you for being here, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the legislators who have joined us today to express their support of Israel, to express their support in calling for the release of the hostages still in captivity. It has been 102 days since babies, children, toddlers, women, men, and the elderly were brutally dragged into captivity in Gaza. We still have over 130 hostages remaining in captivity today, and the call to bring them home now should be heard everywhere, not just in Israel, but by anyone and everyone around the world who values life and freedom. And so we are grateful to the support in North Carolina, and we hope that from here, from North Carolina, there will be a loud and clear voice joining the call to bring them all home now, calling for their immediate and unconditional release of every single hostage. Thank you.
And now we'll turn it over. No particular order. Any of the family members, I'll come up and tell the story because I think the folks need to know.
Thank you for inviting us today. I'm here to speak on behalf of my brother-in-law, Omri Miran, who was taken hostage on October 7 from Kibbutz Nachalos. My name is Moshe. I grew up on the Israel-Gaza border in Sderot. My entire immediate family was attacked on that day. My parents in Sderot and my two sisters, Lisha and Michal, in Kibbutz Nachalos and Kibbutz Oraner. I'm based in New York, so I did not experience it firsthand. But this October 7th was the most monstrous attack we could have imagined, and the culmination of decades-long attacks by Hamas, as we all here grew up to terrorist attacks on us, on our families, and rocket missiles on our communities. Before I speak of October 7, let me share who Omri is. He's a 46 years old man who met my sister Lishai in March 2020. So when the world froze, their hearts opened and their love blossomed amid a pandemic. They built a home together in Kibbutz Nachalos, a place where Omri moved over a decade ago from northern Israel. And I always loved the notion that he grew up in the north, my sister with us in the south, and they were able to build their home together. They have two beautiful daughters, beautiful and intelligent daughters, Roni and Alma. Roni is now 2.5 years old, and Alma is 9 months old. A third of her life without her father. Omri is a shiatsu therapist and a gardener. So he heals plants in the morning and then heals people in the evenings in his clinic. He loves sports. He loves reading, loves literature. His favorite author is Haruki Murakami. Especially was a spiritual man connected to nature and to the Israeli landscape. And we can't wait to have him back with us. Because on October 7, Omri was kidnapped from his home. He woke up to the sounds of sirens at 6:29 a.m. alongside his wife Lishai and their two daughters, Ronnie and Alma. At some point we lost contact with them. The electricity went off in the house, in the kibbutz, and their phones went off because they were not charged. Nobody expected such a monstrous terror attack to take place that day, a holiday, on a holy Shabbat. Around 4 hours after the attack started, we lost contact with them. And then a teenage boy from the kibbutz, Tomer, was begging them from outside their door to open the door, else Hamas terrorists will shoot him. Tomer was used by Hamas throughout that day so that his neighbors will open their door. Lishai and Omri opened their door to the terrorists who ravaged their house. Tomer was later executed by Hamas, 17 years old. For hours, Omri, Lishai and the daughters were held at gunpoint, abused in their own home, seeing it being destroyed, seeing how they cannot protect their own children from the terrorists who were holding them at gunpoint at RPG point, pointing an RPG at a 2.5-year-old girl, and then a half-year-old girl. Imagine that. After a few hours, they were grouped with another family, the Idan family, whose daughter Mayan was executed, 18 years old, executed by Hamas terrorists. For hours they were held captive, live streamed on Facebook. And eventually, around 1:30 p.m., they were separated. Omri was handcuffed alongside Tzachi Idan and Judith and Natalie Ranan, and he was taken away by Hamas terrorists, not before my sister told them she loves him, that she'll take care of the girls, and asked him not to be a hero. My niece Ronnie tried to run to him, but luckily my sister stopped her before Hamas terrorists shot her. So since October 7, we haven't heard from Omri. 4 hours later, Lishai and the girls were instructed to stay put or else they'll be shot and killed. So they stayed in the house until they were rescued by IDF soldiers at 5:30 p.m. They were eventually evacuated from the kibbutz. My entire family is now displaced, including, of course, my sister and nieces. And since October 7, we've been all around, here in the US, in Europe, and of course in Israel, advocating for the release of Omri, advocating for the release of all the hostages. Emphasizing to everyone who wants to listen that this is beyond politics, beyond the toxic battleground that we see on the street and on social media between hateful people. This is a humanitarian issue, a multinational issue, a multi-faith issue. Hostages of all ethnicities, nationalities, and religions are held captive at gunpoint by a terrorist organization that has no regard to human life, human dignity. They attacked humanity on October 7, and they committed to attack humanity over and over again, unless they'll be stopped. But what concerns us is that our loved ones, our family members, our neighbors, our friends, our country people will return to our families alive. And for that reason we're here sharing our stories, and I thank North Carolina for inviting us. I thank the governor and the federal representatives we met. I thank the state legislators we met. They allowed us to share our stories, allowed us to give them recommendation from the federal level to the state level, and how they can engage and ensure engage with the issue and ensure that the hostages can return home. And whoever is watching this, please engage as well with the issue. Know that this is beyond your political disposition. You should engage with it because the hostages are human beings like you. Omri is a father to 2 daughters, a husband to my sister Lishai, a brother to his 2 brothers and 1 sister, and a son to his father Danny. It's a human being, and by saving him, we can save an entire world. So please join us in our struggle, whether here in North Carolina, whether in the wider U.S. landscape and the world. In the name of humanity, we need to find ways to bring them home alive, bring them home to us. We can't wait to hug them again. We can't wait to have dinner with them again. I can't wait to see my 2 nieces have their father again, because no matter what trauma they endured during captivity for hours at gunpoint, I can't imagine the trauma they'll have to endure for the rest of their lives if they'll have to spend it without Omri. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Yair Moses. I'm here to speak about my father, Gadi Moses. My father is a man of people and land. He worked in the fields, in the kibbutz Niroz for the last 60 years. The last 30 years, he's world expert with agriculture, growing potatoes. In the last 30 years, he's traveling around the world on development countries and lecture them about irrigation, about understand the soil, how to grow better, how to have better agriculture, because he believed this is the right thing to do, to people to be able to support themselves and grow enough products from the land and to have better life. When people from those countries come to Israel, he go again and lecture them and share his knowledge, because he believed this is the right thing to do. This is the human thing to do. He can explain it to a group of professors, a group of kindergarten kids, and everyone in between in their level, and answer every question until everyone's satisfied. He loves to help people. He used to drive Palestinians from Gaza to hospitals to get medical treatment and drive them back to Gaza because they don't have the way to go there. They got some permission to cross the border, but not. But on October 7, his world and all our world was like almost collapsed because they brutally entered the kibbutz after a brutally attack of missiles and enter his house. And the moment he know they entered the house, he left the safe room to protect his partner and her daughter and 2 granddaughters, because this is the person he is. He put himself in front of others. And then they took him, and his partner managed to send a message that he was taken by the terrorist. And my sister, which was in another house, struggling for her life, holding the door to protect from her daughters from the terrorist, saw the message that her father was taken. Lucky for us, she was survived and managed to tell the story, but houses near her were burned and destroyed and bombed. Unfortunately, later, other terrorists came, took his partner Frat and a daughter Doron and 2 granddaughters, Raz and Aviv, which are only 2 and 4, and took them too. Frat was murdered on the way, and the body was found in the fields after several days only. Doron and the 2 granddaughters were taken to Gaza and released after 49 days. My mother, which lived in a 3rd house, was also kidnapped on the same day. She managed to grab a device that helped us to sleep while she's sleeping, because she knew she cannot sleep without it. And she managed to hold it all the way to Gaza, but when they entered to the tunnel, they took it from her, even though they knew she must have it. She didn't know if they have electricity or not, but she knew she needed to survive, to live. But they took it from her. And then they took her down to the tunnels, and she's been there for 49 days. Without this, the only way she could try to sleep was sit in a chair with her back, head back to the wall, and try to sleep. She barely slept the whole time. After she was released, it took her for a week that she had to sleep for like 12, 13 hours a day for her body to recover. Lucky for us, she's now better. But my father is still, we don't know anything about him. On December 19, Hamas released a video, we see him speaks. Sorry, Islamic Jihad did it. And in this movie, that we don't know when it was taken, he looks very thin. He looks like 10 years older than what he looked in this picture that was taken this summer. It's a very new picture, and he looks like 10 years older than what he is. And since then, this is the only sign of life we have for him from October 7th till now. And this is our lives now. I didn't shave my beard. I didn't cut my hair. I dress only with shirts that shows, and I have everything this is our life. I didn't go to work. I didn't do anything. For me and for the other families, we can do anything. We do whatever we can in order to bring them back. And time is running out for them. Elderly people we already know that died there, and others, women that we know that were brutally attacked and assaulted, and many other bad stories that we heard from people that returned. And the only human thing is to bring them home. It doesn't relate to politics. It doesn't relate to anything else. Anyone who has family can imagine what happened if his father, his brother, his kids, someone from his family was taken, and it's more than 100 days now, 3.5 months already. Time is running out, and anyone with some humanity in him need to act, to do whatever he can in order to bring them home. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Yair Rotem. I'm from Kibbutz Be'eri in Israel. On October 7th, I woke up about 6:30 a.m. to the sounds of bombings. It was rockets fired from Gaza, intercepted by Israeli Iron Dome missiles. I had to stay in the safe room, and then later we got an announcement from the Israeli IDF that we need to stay in the safe room because something else happened. Slowly we started to understand that hundreds of terrorists made their way to our kibbutz that day. They started to massacre the population of Kibbutz Be'eri. They're starting to burn houses, murder people, setting houses on fire, kidnapping people to Gaza. I was locked inside my house, but I could see hundreds and thousands of messages in the WhatsApp groups saying, "Please help me, my house is on fire. They murdered my neighbor. I hear screams from the other room." And these messages are repeating themselves. "My house is on fire, my house is on fire, please come help me." And after 2 hours, it's silent. And you understand that this person inside the burning house is probably dead or kidnapped. Not only him, but also his 2 kids that were with him. Same thing happened to my sister and my niece, Hila Rotem and Raya Rotem. They were staying at their house together with another girl named Emily Hand that was sleeping over at my niece's house. 3 of them were kidnapped from their house in Kibbutz Be'eri around 12:05 p.m. I couldn't do anything about it because I was hiding in my safe room as well. I just knew she sent a message that she has been kidnapped, and I couldn't do anything about it. I only learned 3 weeks after that they're really kidnapped in Gaza and not dead. They were held in captivity for around 50 days, when my niece and Emily, her friend, got released without my sister, her mother. This was a violation by Hamas of the ceasefire agreement that stated that kids should not be separated from their parents while being released, but Hamas did it anyway. Luckily, we got my sister also back after 4 days, so we're happy that they're here. But in that October 7th, about 90 people from my kibbutz were murdered. I know each one of them personally. Fortunately, I was only able to attend 4 funerals because there were too many these days. And we had about 30 people who were missing. As the time went by, we learned that some of them were killed on October 7th. Some of them were released already by Hamas, and some of them, the people in the picture, are still in Gaza. Actually, 3 of them in this poster are already announced dead, murdered. 2 of them were murdered on October 7th, and their body was taken to Gaza, and 1 of them was murdered in captivity. And sadly, this morning we saw the news and the video that was posted by Hamas with the 2 dead Israeli bodies, who were these 2 people here. So we can change their title here in the picture to Murdered by Hamas, even though Hamas claiming that IDF bombed the building, and that's why they're dead. But I guess that is not the real story. It's particularly sad for us because Itai, here in the picture, was held with my niece and my sister during the whole 50 days that they were there. And he's also a brother of my very good friends that went to the same class with me, grew up together with me, so I know him personally. So he was held together with my sister and my niece, and that's where they learned to know each other, and it's really hard for my niece. My niece, Hila, is actually here with us. She was with us in New York, and she's here in North Carolina, but she was a little bit too tired because of so many meetings, so she went home to rest. Lovely girl, she's here. It's hard for her, but she's here because it's very important for her to call for the release of all the remaining hostages, kidnapped people. So we have, in my kibbutz, we have several bodies that need to be saved from Gaza, and also other people who we believe to be alive. And we just want to tell the whole world about it, and please do whatever you can to keep this topic, let people know about it in social media, tell your friends, do whatever you can. Thank you.
I guess it would be appropriate for any questions that anyone wants to ask. That's a first. If there are no questions, thank you all for covering this. This is not about the North Carolina legislature, but it's about telling the story of these families and these hostages and making sure that they know. I wanted to make this statement. I know that there are those who have been less than supportive of Israel, but I think those are loud but very small voices. I think I speak for a lot of folks when I say that the overwhelming majority of this state, support Israel and are praying for peace and are praying for your families to be reunited safely soon. And just know that you all will continue to remain those thoughts and prayers and demanding that our country do the right thing and stand with Israel. So with that, thank you all for covering us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Just a question. This is a dog tag that we all wear now. Most of us symbolizes, it says here, our heart is still kidnapped in Gaza.
Oh, wow.
And in English, bring them back home. And some of us wear it since October 7th, and we want to do this if possible. Of course. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. All right.
And real quick to all y'all here, I just wanted a point of clarification. The name of the organization is the Hostage and Missing Families Forum. There is a tagline that they're using to bring them home, just to make sure that's very clear, the name of the organization.